notification. Yep, did you get the notification? Excellent.
Yes, we did.
Brilliant. So, without further ado, I will then be starting and just explaining to everyone what is going to be happening today. So welcome to our, I think this is our third reading group meeting. And today we are joined by the author of the book that we'll be discussing, which is Teacher Training for English Medium Instruction in Higher Education. And our author today is Dr. María del Mar Sánchez Pérez, and she is from Spain, if that was not clear. And we're very thankful to the Spanish context, especially Rima, who arranged this reading group session for us today, and especially about the fact that Dr. Sánchez Pérez is here with us to describe her book and just explain to us the reason behind it and all that. I know that everyone received the email to be able to register for this event. So with that, you have had access to the link about the book and also links to get onto the book to buy it, and also the link to tell you more about our author. But I'm actually going to let our author tell us a bit more about herself before we start discussing this book. So I'm going to be giving the floor to you, and once again, very welcome.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, the ELINET group, for this kind invitation, and thank you very much all the attendees for your interest in my book. It's my pleasure, and I am more than honored to be sharing this time with you, discussing the contents of this book, which is a result of hard work, actually. And well, let me just introduce myself a little bit. My name is María del Mar Sánchez Pérez, and I am an associate professor at the University of María from Spain. I hold a PhD in applied linguistics, and my research interests include foreign language and second language teaching methodology, English for specific and academic purposes, content and language integrated learning, English medium instruction, of course, integrating content and language in higher education, and internationalization at university level. In fact, since 2018, I have held the position of Director of International Mobility at the Vice Chancellorship of Internationalization at the University of María, my home university. And then let me just explain very briefly how the idea of this book, Teacher Training for English Medium Instruction in Higher Education, arose. Well, this idea arose while I was working at the Vice Chancellorship of Internationalization of my home university, as I said before, where I had a very close contact with academic staff involved in teaching non-language related disciplinary courses from business, engineering, pure sciences, and so on. And they taught the courses in English through the plurilingualism promotion plan that was promoted and implemented by the University of María within the internationalization strategy. So while working there, I received many concerns on the part of the content teachers regarding their lack of previous training in such a hard task, that is teaching the courses in a non-native language, because most of them were Spanish speakers. And in this case, they had to teach the courses in English. Additionally, and as a researcher in EMI, in higher education, I had noticed that most of the research carried out on EMI in higher education to that date was primarily focused on lecturers and students' perceptions and attitudes towards the usefulness and efficiency of EMI for certain skill development, including language improvement, content learning, and so on. But there was a sort of paucity of research on pedagogical and methodological issues for effective EMI development in higher education. Indeed, I also noticed that there was a matter that appeared to be highly demanded in most of the recent studies I came across. At the same time, I realized that in the few studies conducted on the matter to that date, many institutions were increasingly providing staff, or teaching staff, with opportunities to improve their English language skills. But most of them still lacked explicit training on specific pedagogical and methodological issues to successfully operate in EMI environments. Therefore, I decided to create that book because I noticed a growing claim for guidelines on new educational methods, techniques, strategies, resources, and materials to be used in EMI contexts on the part of the teaching staff community overall. So I decided to design a book in which there were many contributions from experts to filling this research gap by providing insights into current development for effective approaches and experiences in teacher training and professional development for English medium instruction at the university. Therefore, this book was created with the help of a lineup of well-renowned researchers and experts in the field of EMI from different countries, especially from Spain, but also from other countries such as Sweden, Mexico, or Brazil. And we compiled a total of 18 chapters, which were divided into 3 key broad sections aimed at understanding the EMI phenomenon first, of course, such as the section devoted to theoretical insights into teacher training for EMI, as well as at knowing specific successful case studies on teacher training experiences in certain Spanish contexts, but also in other countries, as I said before, such as Sweden, Mexico, or Brazil, that might serve as an inspiration for further readers. And finally, the last section includes a series of proposals on innovative pedagogical techniques, resources, and materials that I consider may be useful for current and future EMI practitioners. So basically, the target audience of this book includes, among others, researchers and practitioners in the field of EMI and multilingual education overall, university managers, teacher training planners, pre- and in-service lecturers, language and content specialists, of course, policymakers, as well as textbook and materials publishing companies as well. So this is overall the idea of this book and the origin and the reason why it arose and why it was created and published afterwards. And now I will be more than honored to listen to your questions or comments or any suggestion even. Why not that you may have. I will be more than pleased to answer all your comments and questions. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Right, thank you very much. I think just in terms of logistic procedures, if people could possibly just raise their hands before speaking, that might be easier for us to just sort of facilitate this session. In the meantime, from my side, I think it's extremely interesting, and I've had a look at the abstract and a couple of extracts from the book while I was preparing for the session, and honestly, I think it's very interesting and it's a fantastic tool. It's very useful. Specifically for early career researchers such as myself, but also for any person already in the field of EMI. So yeah, without further ado, I think let's open the floor, and if anyone has something they'd like to say or ask, now is the moment. Hind, yes.
Hello, thank you very much. It's very interesting work, and I really enjoy when I didn't have a chance to read the book, but I'm reading the titles. And I believe one of the tools of training for EMI is using translanguaging, or to use the L1. I think it's very, very key component, especially when the teachers and the students belong to the same background, the same cultural background, and they share the same L1. I believe is one of the strongest tools in higher education, especially in EMI, to use L1. Is there anything about it, or it just like practical tool? I mean, about whether using L1 or not. I have no idea because I didn't have a chance to read the whole book.
Yeah, of course, I absolutely agree. I think translanguaging is a key point in English medium instruction. Indeed, there have been many recent publications on the matter, yeah, especially by Li Wei and Ofelia Garcia. These are well-renowned experts in translanguaging that have published recent work on how to apply or about the benefits of using translanguaging in EMI contexts. It is true that in my book, there's no chapter specifically devoted to translanguaging, but in some of the case studies, in some of the chapters that involve different case studies, there's some mentions to experiences with translanguaging and their effect on well, the development of the EMI lessons that are really, really interesting. I strongly suggest that you have a look at, particularly at section number 2 on case studies and proposals for teacher training in EMI university context, where you will find some of the case studies mentioning some experiences regarding translanguaging as one of the tools or strategies to improve the smooth development or at least to overcome the inherent limitations of EMI in the classroom. So yes, there's no chapter specifically devoted to translanguaging, but there are some cases in which you can find some instances of this technique or strategy to overcome some limitations that might be.
Yeah, I can't find in chapter 18. They like leveling up using motivational digital technology to create meaningful, clean experience.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
yeah, I have no idea like about what kind of clean is language about like English, like
yes, English and Spanish.
Okay, so yeah, also you take the language means L1 here.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, yeah.
That's right.
Okay,
that's
very
right.
interesting work. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to you for your question. Thank you.
Just a quick question that came up in the chat earlier. One of the participants, Davran from Kazakhstan, has asked if you would mind sharing your email address.
Sure.
Yeah, so if you wouldn't mind, you can just put it in the chat there, and I think if people have questions after the session, they could also reach out to you in that way.
Absolutely. So shall I write it on the chat?
Yes, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
But in the meantime, if someone else has a question or a comment, then now is a good time.
Maria, sorry I was late. I couldn't get into the Zoom. You might see my email. I also emailed you to see if you could let me in. Well, first of all, congratulations.
Hi, Nadia.
What must have been a huge task. I mean, all these chapters and just to be able to bring together so many authors and to edit something like this. I was interested, chapter 12 focuses on CLIL, and also chapter 9 from EMI to ICLHE, so integrating content and language in higher education, so CLIL in higher education context. It's interesting to me because people define EMI in so many different ways, don't they? For some it's CLIL, for some it's content language, content instruction, for some it's learning English. And I thought this chapter title was quite interesting. I wondered if you had any comments on that.
Yes, absolutely. This chapter was written by Dr. Cristina Escobar from the Universidad Autónoma de Barcelona. She has extensive experience in CLIL research. And of course, her idea was to try to, let's say, create like a bridge between the benefits or the features of CLIL and how they could be applied to higher or in higher education. Of course, he mentions the recent, let's say, research line that arose some years ago in Maastricht, such as integrating content and language in higher education, which was like the big brother, okay, CLIL's big brother, which actually defends the combination of language, a sort of language support in EMI contexts, because we already know, of course, that EMI is basically focused on disciplinary learning, but where the main focus is on content learning. And the language of instruction, in this case English, is supposed to be learned or acquired incidentally. But there have been many recent studies that, questions or challenges that idea. Indeed, I have actually published very recently some empirical studies in which I try to demonstrate how EMI by itself is not enough for the students to develop their language skills just by the mere exposure to the language. And of course, it is necessary if the purpose is that students end up with a certain level of equipment of the, the language of instruction, which is supposed to be one of the goals for when implementing English medium instruction at university, at least in my institution, this is one of the goals. Of course, that would be complemented with certain language support for the students so that they can, of course, develop their language skills at the same time. And of course, they can be better equipped to become more competent future professionals, not only in terms of content acquisition and learning, but also on the language necessary to operate within their own areas of knowledge. Okay, so for this purpose, that would be interesting to consider providing embedded or parallel ESP or EAP, English for Academic Purposes courses, or some kind of support, or team teaching, something that is really controversial in higher education because of the limitations that there are among faculty members. But of course, this is what this chapter supports. How can we provide students with a better equipment to be future competent, not only in the in the contents of their discipline, but also in the literacy and the language needed to operate successfully in the future area of knowledge. I don't know whether I answered your question with that.
You did, but I have another one because I'm really glad that you mentioned team teaching there in collaboration. And I can see that my PhD student, Jingwen, is in the audience, and this is teacher training in EMI is her topic.
Excellent.
And she's looking at collaboration. Jingwen, are you there?
That's excellent. That would be very nice.
Did you?
Hi, everyone.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry, Jingwen, I'll let you ask the question.
Thank you, Nicola, for introducing me here. Oh, Maria, thank you for having this wonderful book.
Thanks to you for your
yes, actually, I have read several chapters of this book, and I found it very interesting that to see how teacher training and teacher educations are happening in different locations of like CLIL, EMI, and other terms, whatever related to.
Yeah, there are many labels. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm very glad to be here to, learn from you guys. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comment. Thank you and I wish you the best with your PhD work. I would be glad to read your results when you finish, of course.
Maria, your observation of teacher training and the research was, so Jingwen and I have been discussing recently, and it's something I'm also interested in, about whether any of the courses focus on collaboration between content and language teachers, so team teaching, but also co-curriculum design and training courses catered for both teachers.
Is that a question?
Sorry, it was a question, yes.
Oh, sorry, I didn't understand.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
In your observations of teacher training programs and courses and materials, was there any focus on collaboration between the two types of teachers? So on team teaching, effective team teaching, or also co-curriculum design, joint design of materials for students?
Well, while I was in charge of the plurilingualism promotion plan at the University of Almeria, actually we had, let's say, some attempts, to have such kind of collaboration between language experts and content experts. But to be honest, this was not as successful as expected, because, you know, and it's quite hard to explain this, but, you know, university teachers are quite, how to explain that? Quite reluctant to get invaded in their space. And even though they know, and of course, there were some interesting results that came up from this experience, because we tried to, but this was, of course, on a voluntary basis, right? And there were some groups that intended to work together. But the point is that the content teachers' ideas always prevailed. And it was a little bit hard to try to convince them on the real needs that the students might have in order to follow the lectures, and of course, in order to be equipped with the necessary literacy skills related to the course contents. And well, it was an attempt. That's why I cannot say that it was absolutely successful because of that reluctance. Of course, we are trying to rethink how to approach this kind of co-collaboration, because we actually consider this is really beneficial, and it's quite a potential tool. And not to mention designing the curriculum together, because of the time limitation and, you know, the structure of the courses, it was the content teacher that decided always the contents, and well, it was quite reluctant to incorporate any language aspect that could be, according to them, in detriment to their own content that they have previously designed. But I am aware, but because I'm talking about my experience here at the University of Almería, but I'm aware that there are some other experiences in other contexts in Spain. For example, in the Basque Country, I don't know whether you have heard David Lasagabaster. He has published some work on that. And well, the results are not so promising, but at least there are some, you know, predisposition to incorporate such kind of experiences. And well, it's a matter of faith, to be honest. And yes, team teaching has resulted to be probably very welcome on the part of the students, but very difficult to implement on the part of the, let's say, administrative and at a teacher level. Okay. So, but yes, of course, there's a lot to be done yet. And there are some experiences that are arising right now. And of course, we need to keep on trying and researching on that.
Thank you. Yeah, I think we need to be mindful that it's context specific, and yes, administration and different institutional infrastructures will impact on this. Thank you. Thank you. So it's really interesting to get your insights, because Jingwen and I have been talking a lot about collaboration in EMI and collaboration between EMI researchers and ESP researchers, but you have so much inside knowledge. So
no, of course, but as you tell, every context is different, because EMI is precisely highly context sensitive. So it depends not only on the region, on the country, but even on the institution, because even within the same country, there are many different, you know, approaches within institutions here in Spain. So yeah, everything's different, and it depends.
Well, thank you for that. Just for the recording's sake, and for everyone else also, just to avoid confusion, this is actually Dr. Nicola Galloway. She's just using my link to join the meeting, which is why her name is currently the same as mine. But so just for everyone who is wondering, this is Dr. Nicola Galloway.
My pleasure.
Nice to meet you.
My pleasure. Thank you very much for attending this session. Thank you very much.
Right, so is there a question from anyone else or possibly a comment? Oh, okay, so someone has just asked a question here in the Q&A, which I can access. The question says, I would like to ask about the theoretical framework of the EMI pedagogy, if possible. So if you're able to, I don't know who this participant is, if you can maybe unmute yourself, and then Maria will be able to answer you. Oh, it is Davran. Davran, I think you're muted. No, muted still.
Hi. Can you hear?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry for my question. I'm also investigating the teaching strategies for the EMI context, and if you came across or if you experienced this context in your teaching practices. So what kind of theoretical frameworks or bases can we rely on while dealing with EMI delivery?
Yeah, well, that's a very good question. Thank you very much, Davram. Well, the theoretical framework is a little bit, you know, it depends from my point of view. It depends on the context and specifically on the purpose of the language strategy set up by the institution. Because, for example, at my home university, and indeed, what I have actually detected is that there are sometimes some mismatches, you know, between the the strategy objectives and the real implementation of one framework or another. For example, at my university, if you go to the internationalization strategy, you can read that there is a plurilingualism promotion plan by which certain course from non-linguistic areas will be taught through the medium of a foreign language, mainly English, in order to attract international students, but also to equip our local students with the necessary English language competence so that they become more proficient when they finish and they get better skills to work in a globalized labor environments and so on. But then you notice that the framework that has been decided to be implemented at the University of María is purely EMI. Purely EMI, from my point of view, is just teaching non-language related disciplinary courses in English with no language support or very little language support, and with the specific goal of achieving or acquiring disciplinary content. And from my point of view, that doesn't, it's not very coherent with the strategy, because if what we want is to equip our local students as well, of course, they should receive any kind or any sort of language support additionally, apart from the courses they receive in English entirely. There are other contexts in Spain that advocate for an ICLHE approach. As I told before, ICLHE is CLIL's big brother that arose at Maastricht University and stands for Integrating Content and Language in Higher Education. Within this framework, the purpose is that students acquire both the content, the same as CLIL, but in higher education, right? With the particularities and the specificities that higher education has. Acquiring the content of the disciplinary area, and also kind of language and specifically literacy in that particular discipline, by means of providing parallel or embedded language for specific purposes courses, or team teaching between language and content specialists, and so on. This is exactly what actually we would like to apply at the University of María, but it's not that easy because of institutional restrictions. Okay, that's from a practical perspective. But then there are other frameworks that have recently arisen that can be really useful from a research perspective. I don't know whether you have heard about the road mapping framework that was proposed by Emma Dafoe and Ute Smith from the University of Vienna. And that framework covers many different aspects that needs to be considered when designing and implementing EMI in higher education. Well, actually, they call that EMEMOS, English Medium Education in Multilingual Educational Settings. Okay, so from a research perspective, that would be a very useful framework to start with, okay, to try to analyze or design and implement an EMI program or plan at a higher education institution. I don't know whether I answered your question with that.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, very helpful.
Okay, thank you. Thanks to you.
Excellent. Anyone else with a question or a comment maybe? Davran, go right ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry for my second question. From your own practice, what can you say about content teachers' attitudes towards EMI? How much do they care about the language or support?
Well, that's a very good question. Well, that's a stepping stone, actually. Well, overall, content teachers, at least from my experience, of course, there are many other, situations. And of course, the experience depends on the teacher, on many different factors, right? But what I found at the beginning when I started researching EMI, and of course, when I got in contact with content teachers in order to explain to them, especially with those who started participating in EMI for the first time, what I found was a sense of first reluctance, but then when trying to talk to them, trying to dig deeper a little bit about the reason for that reluctance, was that they didn't feel prepared for that. And I'm not talking about linguistically, because most of them had sufficient language, English language level, okay? They are researchers that have participated in international conferences, and they have sufficient language level to give a lesson in English. But they felt very not very well equipped in terms of pedagogical and methodological issues. Because what they understood at the beginning was that, of course, if I need to give my lesson in English, what I will do is just translate my slides and my notes into English. And then they got frustrated because they noticed that the students didn't follow the contents and the flow of the class. And even though students also had sufficient language level to at least understand, so they claimed urgently, they begged, I remember they begged, please provide us with some support, some training on how to approach this, because we are lost. This is the first time we do that. We don't know how to approach. This is very difficult. We thought that it was just a matter of language, and we have noticed that it's beyond that. Okay, we need to get equipped with strategies, pedagogical guidelines, and resources, materials, and so on. And they felt quite lost. That was my impression, and that's why what we are trying to look for solutions, providing an annual plan for training content teachers that participate in the plurilingualism promotion plan at the University of María. We also have conducted, questionnaires, not only to the teachers, but also to the students, so that they can detect what they miss in their lessons. And yes, we're trying to design training programs for them in collaboration with language experts, but also considering specialists in methodological guidelines and specifically, applicable to EMI and multilingual environment, teaching environments. But yeah, their feeling, or at least what I received, was a little bit desperation, because they felt that they were not very well prepared for engage in such a hard task, of course. I don't know whether...
Yeah. Thank you very much. And can I ask my final question?
Yes, please.
Do you have any institutional EMI-related academic policy for the EMI students before they graduate? For example, the level of English, some certificate, or perhaps some levels. Is there any such kind of requirement for students?
Yes, we have that. It is regulated in the Plurilingualism Promotion Plan that the University of Almería launched within the internationalization strategy, where there are a series of, let's say, obligations and benefits for both for the teaching staff participating in that program, but also for the students. As for the teaching staff, they receive small economic amount that should be devoted to training, either linguistically or on pedagogical and methodological issues, right? They also have a reduction. So if they participate in the Plurilingualism Promotion Plan and if they provide their lessons in English, they have a compensation and they can just take some few hours of teaching. So it's as a way of compensation. And also, as for obligations, they need to attend the teacher training plan that the University of Almería designs every year for this teaching staff. And we normally count on people, experts from not only from the University of Almería, but from other universities in Spain that have extensive experience in teacher training for English medium instruction, so that they can recycle every year and get new ideas that are really, really interesting. And actually, they thank that training course a lot. And then the students, of course, the students are required a minimum B1 English language level, okay, to participate in the Plurilingualism Promotion Plan. And of course, it is mandatory at the university, I mean, in Andalusia, in my region, in Spain, and this is mandatory from a government perspective, that every student, regardless of the discipline he or she is studying, they need to get officially the B1 English language certificate level before finishing their studies, okay? But if they participate in the Plurilingualism Promotion Plan, they also have some benefits. They get extra marks, for example, in competitive calls for accessing an international mobility abroad, or if, I don't know, maybe for special scholarships, and they have the chance to choose for a different group in a course before other people who don't participate in the plan. So of course they are also offered some training concerning English for academic purposes, English for specific purposes, in combination with the language center of the University of Almería. So they are provided with a lot of, let's say, support and benefits, so that they are encouraged to participate in the Plurilingualism Promotion Plan, and that they take their courses in English. Also, depending on the major, for example, we have a bilingual degree, which has a bilingual itinerary that, has a kind of prestige at the University of María, because most of the students that finish that bilingual degree find a job within a very short time. So there are many people who, intend to enroll in this kind of degree, in which half of the ECTS credits must be received in English, and then they need to complete 1 year abroad. That's mandatory in order to get the bilingual itinerary, which will appear actually in their final certificate, which is also very interesting for them. And that's what we have for our students.
Just small clarification. You said that B1 is for admission requirement. So this is like admission required to plurilingual program, right?
Yes.
How about the language requirement for graduation in this plurilingual program?
Yes, it is the language requirement to access the plurilingualism promotion plan, and then it is the language requirements to get the degree, but for every students, in either they participate in the plurilingualism promotion plan or not. But normally, students who participate in the plurilingualism promotion plan get a higher level.
So
They
my question is,
yes,
B1 is
have
for
at least
admission?
B2, and some of them even C1. Yeah.
C1, right?
Mm-hmm.
So C1 is for graduation, right?
But no, not compulsory.
Not compulsory.
No, the compulsory is just B1. Okay.
Entrance, okay.
Yeah, but some students who participate in the plurilingualism promotion plan from the very beginning, when they start in the first year, when they finish the fourth year, most of them have reached a B2, and in some cases, there are some of them that have reached a C1.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks to you.
Yes, Hint, you can go right ahead.
Yeah, regarding the book, I like to use the book when I plan to have a training to EMI teacher. But how can I use the book? Like, I mean, these teachers in the book, like, who participated, did they receive any training, or this study that in the book, do they do like intervention, how to develop their teaching? Because it's not clear if they are receiving training or it is a part of intervention, or the teachers usually sometimes they are creative, they do many strategies and in order to make the class very active and to make the classes fantastic and make students participate more, because I find that teachers try to be creative based on what they have around them, but I don't know about the book, the teachers who involved in this study, about the researchers, do they really giving them training? Because I'm planning to use the book to see how can I apply in my context.
Yeah, many of the authors of the book are teacher trainers. Yes, they participate in the training of the content teachers of their respective universities. And what the book collects is a series of experiences that they have collected from their own experience when training their teachers. So yes, I think that might be quite inspiring, because you can see some successful cases that can be transferred to other contexts, of course, to other different audience and target content teachers. But you can see how other teacher trainings have developed these programs, of course. And here you will find some results, but also a description of the training programs that might be quite inspiring from my point of view.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's very inspiring me to think about it. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks to you.
Yes, Trang, you are welcome.
Yes. Hello, everyone, and thank you, Maria, for being here today with us. And it's a very interesting book, and although I haven't read like in detail all the chapters, but then I at least from the first look, the design, the organization of the book, like with a detailed table of contents, so it's very like reader friendly, and I really like that idea of having a detailed some overview of the chapters before going into detail of each chapter. Well, I've got a question related to yep, like the content of the book, and also from your experience with all the teacher trainers in those courses for professional development courses for content lecturers. So well, I'd like to know about the content lecturers' attitudes towards incorporation of language related or kind of like linguistic scaffolding, or the idea of like incorporating the language elements in their content teaching. So how do they like respond to that idea, and like and maybe which like teachers, lecturers from which disciplines are more, how to say, like more welcoming or more like more willing to apply kind of like linguistically responsive instruction in their content teaching. So what do you know from all the from your experience, and also from maybe from the all the chapters, yeah, in the book, in your book? Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your question. That's a very interesting question indeed. Well, concerning the overall reaction or the overall attitude, as I said before, I think I explained that a little bit before. Well, the first, initially they felt a little bit reluctant, you know, because they didn't know to apply that, and especially because they felt what every content teacher says: I'm not a language expert, I'm a content expert, and please try not to invade my content and my my unit with something that I cannot control, right? But it is true that when they received year by year the teacher training program, they are aware of how important it is to keep language or literacy, the literacy of the discipline, stick to the content the students need to acquire, because how can a future professional be completely competent if he or she is not able to express or to manage the genres and the specialized language of their discipline? Okay, and they are becoming more aware of that. Okay, and concerning the discipline or the area of knowledge that is more, let's say, or less reluctant, probably at the University of Almería, and because there is the higher number of students that opt for EMI course is related to the business area, probably because they are aware that they will need English when they finish
communication, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. International business, marketing, communication, and so on. These are the teachers that are more eager to experiment as well. Indeed, most of the experiments that we have done with the combination of language specialists and content teachers have been done with mostly with business related areas, with content teachers from business related areas. Although we have also had some interesting experience with engineering, because, well, there are some teachers that are really, really lovely, and they are quite interesting in applying these bilingual approaches, and they are, of course, they want to learn how to do that appropriately. And I remember a teacher in chemistry, a content teacher, that has worked with me a lot, and we have discovered very, very interesting results that have been published recently, actually. And she's absolutely eager to get involved and to but this is because of this. Actually, there are two teachers. They are young teachers. They are quite aware of that the students in engineering, of course, will have to manage the English language when they finish in order to find a job and so on. But there are other teachers. It depends on the person. It's very it's quite, it depends. But it is true that business especially is quite eager to incorporate some training to improve their teaching skills in EMI context or EMI environments.
Yes.
That's true. That's
Yep,
from
yep.
my
Thank you.
experience. And also,
Yes,
if you read the book, you will find that most of the experiences have to do with these areas as well, somehow.
Yeah, right. Yep. And well, it's very interesting that you mentioned the chemistry lecturer. Could you please later like put down in the chat like the title of your like of the article where
Sure, there are actually two written articles.
the results
I'll
of
put
your
them. Sure. My pleasure.
Yes, because I like my research participant, like I have some from the chemistry discipline as well. And then well, what I found out is that it seems that like not like discipline is just like one of the factor. So the course content like should be counted as another important factor as well in terms of like which like shape the teachers' attitudes and also like towards bilingual practices, and also like shape their teaching practices, because as I think about it, well, because courses now tend to be like many courses are kind of like interdisciplinary. So some courses, like even in the chemistry discipline, are not like not purely hard, like consider like hard like content, because like courses like biochemistry can be well, how to say, can be like more applied rather than purely theoretical. So like the lecturers in that courses, they kind of like more receptive to the ideas of bilingual practices, and more willing like to talk about language instruction in their courses, while those like from I think from like specialized chemistry courses, like analytical chemistry, for example, they are not very willing to incorporate like language instruction, because they say that the content in their course is already very heavy, and they like within the limited amount of time for each lesson, they can hardly cover the content thoroughly. So there would be like no space for language instruction, or no space for kind of like interaction in their classes as well, because they need to lecture in order to cover such a huge amount of content. So so that's something I think about as well when like like reflecting on the idea of incorporating or integrating language and content in EMI, because it might depend on like the courses, because like it might not be feasible for every course. And so,
absolutely.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yes, absolutely, I absolutely agree. And that's the fact of there is very little time to cope with the content itself. It's very difficult to incorporate that language component. This is something that almost every content teacher reports as a to justify their reluctance, which is actually understandable. But the point is, when in my case, it depends on the task that the students would have to do. For example, in the chemistry course I was mentioning, and which was published in the articles I am going to post here right now, students had to write laboratory reports. And then the teacher noticed that students didn't know exactly how to write that particular genre. So they needed instruction on how to write a laboratory report appropriately in English. So and there are many interesting findings that we come across. If I may, I'm gonna just post a link here with the two articles I mentioned before, just to let
Thank you.
Okay, let me.
Right, everyone. So while Dr. Sánchez Pérez is busy posting the links to the 2 articles, I would just like to quickly say a few things. So we are going to close the session as soon as she is done answering the question. Afterwards, I think if you have any more questions, she has put her email address in the chat for you, so please do feel free to reach out. I'm pretty sure that discussions can go on for quite some time still. Maria, I can also tell you that Dr. Nicola Galloway had to hop into a different meeting just now, but she has also said that she had a couple of more questions, so she'll probably reach out to you as well. And then you also noted, everyone, that I did post some links to the different social media sites in the chat. If you want to follow any of them, or if you are on any of them, then please do follow us. They can also get some information about upcoming sessions. And then having said that, I'm just reminding you all of the reading group session on Tuesday with Dr. Elif Kemaloglu from Turkey and Dr. Rob Lowe about their combined article. But this was all sent out in an email. And if anyone would like registration information, you can just reach out to me separately. But yeah, having said that, Maria, do you have anything else that you would have liked to add before I interrupted you?
No, I just was posting the links. Thank you very much, everyone, for your attendance. It's been my pleasure. Thank you very much. I really hope that you find it interesting. And of course, should anybody have any question, you got my email address and you can reach me whatever you need. I'm at your entire disposal. Thank you very much, everyone.
And from ELINET's side, thank you very much for joining us. It was fantastic to be able to speak with you and just gauge your thoughts. And thank you for a fantastic presentation. Yeah.
Thank you very much to you.
Yes. Yes.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
That's us then.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Have a nice day.
Bye. You too. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.